Good morning. There appears to be something new out there that I just heard about last week. I was watching a young woman who was talking about this intense depression that she went through after giving birth to her first child. And it was actually shame. Yes, new mommy shaming is what I'm going to call it. This woman was pregnant, had a healthy pregnancy, went to the hospital, gave birth to a healthy child. Yay, right? Only thing was she had a C-section. And there were some people, believe it or not, who shamed her about that. Even some medical professionals. Oh, you couldn't do it the natural way, right? Some friends and family were snarky enough to say, oh, I pushed for 38 hours. I did it the natural way. I didn't even have an epidural. Oh my God, you had a C-section? You're such a loser. You took the easy way out. Easy? Really? See, I know people who have had C-sections, and trust me, it's not easy. First of all, they give you a local anesthetic. You're awake, so you can see that baby when it comes out. They cut your stomach open, cut into your uterus, bring out the baby, sew you back up, and it's 6 weeks recovery. It's surgery without general anesthesia most of the time. So to me, a C-section isn't necessarily an easy way out. But I guess for someone who was in hard labor for 2.5 days, it might seem like that. But I have one thing to say to those shamers. What the fuck business is it of yours? She had a healthy baby. She went through 9 months of depriving herself of everything fun in this world, like alcohol, cigarettes, caffeine. Her legs got swollen. She probably got hemorrhoids. Her boobs came out to here. She did her job. And she gave birth to a healthy baby. And now you're making her feel like shit. And she was desperately in trouble over this. She felt like a failure for not having natural childbirth. And it doesn't stop there. This new mommy shaming. Oh, you're breastfeeding, aren't you? Well, no. Oh my God. What do you mean you're not breastfeeding? Do you know the harm you are doing to your child, denying that child the nutrients they need from your breast milk? Are you kidding me? There have been stories done about women who were so intent on breastfeeding, even though it wasn't working, that their children were starving because they had sworn they were not going to feed their child formula. I say you feed the kid what it's going to eat so it grows and thrives. Now, I have told you personal stories about my family. And I have a lot of cousins, dozens and dozens of cousins, right? We are from age 60 plus to age 20 something, 60 something to 20 something. We all were born to different parents. We're all cousins. We're like third or fourth cousins. But we range in age from 60s to late 20s. That's my generation. All of our mothers smoked while they were pregnant. All of our mothers drank alcohol if they enjoyed alcohol while they were pregnant. All of our mothers drank coffee and soda while they were pregnant. And guess what? It must be a miracle. Not one of us, of my generation of cousins, was born with autism, with mental retardation. Not one of us was born with any kind of chronic illness. We were all born healthy. Now, most of us were not breastfed either. I know I wasn't. And here I am, 53 and a half years later, doing just great. And if you want to talk about immunization, that breast milk makes your baby healthier, well, as a child, I can tell you this. I never had the chicken pox, even though I was exposed to them. My mother used to get strep throat all the time. I've never had strep throat, never had tonsillitis, never was in the ER for anything, never broke a bone, and never, that I can remember, was even on antibiotics for anything as a child. That's how healthy I was being fed on formula as an infant. Got all my immunizations. Yes, I did, even though today we have people saying, oh, immunizations, they make a healthy child retarded in 24 hours. Guess what? Now, again, we're going to talk about this a little more because I know some people are going to disagree with me, but I had my MMR. I had the smallpox vaccine because back in the 60s, everyone got a smallpox vaccine. I had my polio vaccine. Any vaccine that my pediatrician told mom, get it, she got it. I'm good. I'm good. Now, I will say, to defend some of you who will say vaccines are dangerous, there's a lot more of them today than there were back then. And I think I have a reason for that too. It's this panic mode parents go into when their child sneezes, gets a fever, or coughs. And that's, again, this mentality we have of histrionics with parents and sick children. Children will get sick, and you know what will happen? They're going to get well, and they don't always need the ER or the pediatrician or the antibiotic. But there are a lot more vaccines now. There is, for instance, a viewer sent me a copy of her 7-year-old's vaccine certificate, and I was shocked. I have my vaccine certificate from 1965 and 1967. I have all my records. And it was like this long, and my viewer's vaccine certificate is like 2 pages long. They're vaccinating these kids for pneumonia, for the flu. Well, we didn't get vaccinated for that when I was growing up. If we got the flu, we got over it. You know, we were miserable for a week or two. No one was dying from it back then. So that's one of the questions I'm posing on this show. What is changing? Because things have changed quite significantly since I was a child. We had no seat belts in cars. My mother's Rambler station wagon did not come equipped with seat belts, airbags, or anything else. I survived. And we did a lot of driving. We rode our bicycles without helmets or knee pads or elbow pads. And wow, imagine this, survived. We didn't have antibacterial soap. I remember washing my hands with a bar of Ivory soap. Didn't need antibacterial soap. Today, we have parents that run to the emergency room, okay? Because, oh my God, a mosquito bit my child. What do I do? What do you mean, what do you do? What do you do when you get bit by a mosquito? You put some kind of cortisone cream on it and let it heal. Now they run to the ER. You know how many mosquitoes I've been bitten by as a child? Still here, 53 and a half years later. No problems. I don't know, maybe the mosquitoes are getting more virulent. I don't know. Did the mosquitoes change? Maybe. I don't know. It's just crazy. You know, I remember one time I had 103-degree fever, and I was so excited. Not because I was going to the ER, because you didn't do that back then, but because I got to stay home from school. Mom gave me 2 baby aspirin, Bayer baby aspirin that tasted like orange bullshit, Tang, only without the good sugary part of it, and orange juice, and sent me to bed. And then my fever broke, and I was great. And sadly enough, it broke early, and I could go back to school the next day. Today, a kid spikes 100-degree fever, they're running to the ER. And their insurance is paying for it, and guess who else is paying for it? Us! Yes! Because our premiums go up every time some panicky mother runs to the ER because her kid has a 100-degree fever or a sore throat or a cough. When I used to get a cough, when I was a kid, my mom had a vaporizer in my room. She'd turn on the vaporizer, put Vicks Vapor Rub on my chest, and give me some over-the-counter cough syrup. No doctor visit, no antibiotic, no ER. That was it. Today, you gotta run to the doctor. 75% of all pediatric visits are not to make the child feel better, it's to make the parent feel better, the mother. Oh, they have a sore throat. Oh, they're coughing. Now, it's going to be okay, Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Jones. Your baby's going to be fine. Just go home. Plenty of fluids. Couple baby aspirin. Oh, and by the way, that's $95. Your insurance will cover it. And that means we cover it because our premiums go up every time a hysterical mother takes a not that sick child to the doctor to make herself feel better. You're doing a good job. You're a good mommy. My mother never would have done that. One time, and I don't necessarily remember this completely, but I was about 4 years old. I was told about it, and I have a scar on my pinky, which you can't see. I was stung by a yellow jacket. Now, this was one thing my mother did not know anything about. But she didn't pick me up and race me to the ER. She called the ER, and they said, you know what? When was she stung? 10 minutes ago. Okay, she's not allergic. Good news. Take some baking soda, put it in some water, make a paste, put it on it, boom, make sure the stinger's out. Yep, good, bam, done. No ER visit, no bill, no special treatment. That's something else I want to talk to you about. Gosh, this might have to be a 2-part show. Is anaphylactic shock and allergies. When I was a kid, I didn't know one other child in school, Sunday school, anywhere who was allergic to peanuts, who was allergic to anything. Today, you're not allowed to pack peanut butter sandwiches for your kid on a school trip or for lunch. When I was a child, I didn't know one autistic child, no one in my class, no one that we knew had an autistic child, no one we knew had a diabetic child, no one that we knew had a child with chronic illnesses or severe disabilities. Today, it's an epidemic. It's interesting, isn't it? Things have changed in the past 53 and a half years since I was born and was raised in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. But you'd think they would have changed for the better. And instead of more sickness, we'd be having less sickness. For example, most pregnant women today don't smoke or drink alcohol while they're pregnant. They don't drink caffeine. They take prenatal vitamins. And yet, more children are being born with autism, with asthma, with allergies, and with other chronic illnesses. Now, they'll say, well, they're genetic illnesses. Well, weren't the genes back in the 60s and 70s the same as the genes are now? I mean, it was a man, a woman, a sperm, an egg. What has changed? And you can go for the vaccines, but I don't go with the vaccines. Because the vaccines have also always been here. Now, I'm not 100% sure that every vaccine that is offered needs to be given. But the MMR vaccine has been around for ages, and yet it gets blamed for autism. Yet when I had the MMR vaccine, and all of my dozens of cousins did, and all of my classmates did, because you couldn't get into school no matter what. There was no religious out back then. You couldn't go to school if you weren't vaccinated. And nobody was autistic. Nobody was retarded. What changed? Okay, let's talk about what changed. I don't want to get too long-winded. I had some more scenarios, but I think you get the point. What has changed? Well, our air quality has changed. Yes, people are quitting smoking. They're not allowed to smoke outside. So we can say secondhand smoke and cigarettes aren't making our kids sick. Because the government took care of that. As much as I disagree with that, by the way. But our air quality. I grew up in this very house, and believe me, the traffic I see going back and forth on this street every day now, never. This was a quiet street. There was no exhaust from all the cars. We didn't have a nuclear power plant 25 miles away. One that way and 30 miles that way. Peach Bottom and 3 Mile Island. Now, what we did have was we had asbestos in our houses, in our schools, in our offices. But asbestos takes a long time to cause cancers like mesothelioma. Radon. We all have radon. Pennsylvania is a very high radon state. I'm sure I have radon in this house. But my mother grew up here. She lived to be 68. She was killed by malpractice, not by cancer, so who knows? Radon, again, it takes a long time of exposure. My husband's aunt was not a smoker. She got lung cancer, and they tested her house that she had lived in for 50 years, and it tested very high for radon, which is how she got lung cancer, but she was in her 80s. So that's not making our kids sick necessarily. Now, we know our water quality is different now. Every couple of months, I get a letter from the city of Lancaster telling me that there's a high level of chemicals in my water, and I would not want to feed it to a child, let a child drink it. I don't let my dog drink it, and we don't drink it. There have been boil water issues in some parts of our county. So our water quality is worse. Now let's talk about our food. That's very important. When I was growing up, I remember going to market, not Wise Market, market, with my grandmother every Friday, and she would get a quarter pound of bologna, a half a pound of cheese. Why? Because it was only going to last for 3 or 4 days before it spoiled, even in the refrigerator. Now, think of today. You can get a 5-pound block of American cheese and it'll last you 6 months. What changed? Well, what keeps that cheese fresh for 6 months instead of 3 days is chemicals. There's chemicals in that cheese that make it last longer because people are too busy to run to the market every couple of days to get their daily food or their 3 days supply of food. People want to go to the grocery store and get a month or two supply of food. We have our big chest freezers now. We want food to last longer. Lunch meat. My husband brought home a ham this big. You know how long it's going to last in my refrigerator? In the refrigerator. 3 months. Imagine. Real ham, fresh ham, will last a week. Chemicals. Chemicals in our foods. Processed foods. People don't have time to cook anymore. They want to buy something in the freezer section, throw it in the microwave for 4.5 minutes, and eat. Read what's in that food. Chemicals. Chemicals. This is what I submit to you is making us sick. I would love to hear your comments on this show. I have a lot more I could say about my childhood and how much easier and for some reason non-eventive. There were no events. I didn't break bones. I didn't get illnesses. But maybe that's for a different show. I am limited here. We're coming to the end of our second full season. And I'm so excited to tell you that. The bad news is I will be going on hiatus for about 6 weeks, but I'll be back. But not this week. This week I will have new shows for you, and I hope you'll tune in. But this is kind of important because we are all opinionated people. We all think we can do better than our neighbor or our family member or our friend. But don't shame somebody for doing the best they can. Being a parent is the most important job you're ever going to have. There's no right or wrong way to do it, just your way. And as long as your child is healthy and happy and well fed and was born healthy, it really doesn't matter how you do it. But I'm here to tell you, don't panic. Most illnesses are not the end of the world. Some are, and some do deserve attention. But just because your child sneezes is not a reason to panic. Your child gets bit by a mosquito, not a reason to panic. A boo-boo can sometimes just be a boo-boo. And a cough can just be a cough. So at the end of the day, you have to make your own decisions. But I do think that today what has changed is, first of all, there's way too much information, too many books, too many experts, or people who think they're experts telling you what to do, telling you what worked for them. And I think I am going to carry this over to one more show that I will put on this afternoon, because I do have shows for the rest of the week. So I will carry this over to let you just know a little bit more about my personal experience with illnesses and the advice I got and didn't take, and that I'm so glad I didn't. So that's a tease. There'll be a second show today. I hope you tune in. For right now, Political Paula is out.